Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the one and only, the amazing Attila the Stockbroker.
Cheers. It's really good to be back in Amsterdam and to find that now we've got Chine here as well, which is it's good beer. It used to be. I remember when I was living in Belgium in the 1970s. It was sort of the bottle was kind of handwritten, and now it's brewed by InBev, which isn't very good, but it's still really, really nice. And coincidentally, on Sunday, I'm going to be seeing Chine play Union Saint-Gilloise in the Belgian 3rd Division. There you go. Anyway. Because Union Saint-Gilloise, for those who don't know, who like football, is the kind of Brussels anti-fascist kind of St. Pauli team. Although they only have about 400 fans, but they are all mad. Anyway, I'm Attila the Stockbroker from Brighton. I'm going to start off with a couple of old ones and then do quite a few new ones. It's lovely to thank you so much for coming, everybody. And it's lovely to be touring with Patrick Fitzgerald, who is one of my great inspirations. One of the reasons I started doing this, along with Joe Strummer and Hilaire Belloc and my mum and dad. This is called My Poetic License. Yo, I'm the MC of Ranting Rebel Poetry, and I'm a history and my identity. I'm independent, a red cottage industry, DIY, from here to eternity. Let me tell you what's been going on. I take inspiration from centuries long gone, oral tradition of sedition. That's my position. No court jester with a tame disposition. Poetic license? 33 years I've had one, and they don't come easy, they're not handed out for fun. You have to earn it, work and sweat and move, not get stuck in a dead poet bore groove. I earn mine in dirty, scummy punk clubs, art centres, rock gigs, festivals and dodgy pubs. And yes, once or twice I've had to fight. But when a fascist hits a poet, the poet's doing something right. So listen up, this MC's here to stay. Wild those years ago and still fired up today. I love words. And I've got this message for you. Poetry's not boring, though some poets bore you. And I have to say that some poets bore me. They're about as fun as a week on the lavatory, dull and pretentious, playing the art game. Real problem is, they give the rest of us a bad name, but I'm in the forward line, down there in the scrum. Tedious, whining poets, up your bum. Now some of the critics think my stuff's no good. By my living at it, those jerks never could. Yes, as you see, I'm a little bit bolshy too, and that's just one of the ways I want to get through. Sometimes it's cerebral, dry, esoteric wit. Sometimes it's loud and wild and hard and rude as shit. I love words, and I love them in the red and raw. I like to use them in ways they've not been used before. I want you to laugh, I want you to think as well. Bollocks to TV, this is live as hell. Oral tradition. The real origins of poetry. Attila the Stockbroker, ranting rebel MC, Dean of the Social Surrealist University. Welcome to my wild poetic journey. Cheers. Yes, it's now 33 years. I started as Attila in 1980, and at the time I had the one job I've ever had apart from being a poet, which was as a clerk in a stockbroking company in London. I hated them. They hated me. One day I knocked some coffee over and someone said I had the manners of Attila the Hun, and I thought, Attila the Stockbroker, that's a good stage name. It stood me in good stead for 33 years. This is the only other thing I got out of that job, apart from my stage name, which is this poem that I wrote about the people that I worked with in that job, and it's called Every Time I Eat Vegetables, It Makes Me Think of You. No agony, no ecstasy, no pleasure and no pain. So exquisitely uninteresting, you drive your wife insane. The TV is your oracle, the newspaper's your guide, and your shiny little vehicle is your passion and your pride. You've done the same things every day for nigh on 30 years, and in your ludicrous routines you hide your worthless fears. On the blandest boat in boredom you are captain of the crew, and every time I eat vegetables it makes me think of you. You died the day that you were born, and now you sit and rot, an empty-headed dinosaur in the pond that time forgot. Your image is respectable, there's nothing underneath, and the whole thing is as surely false as 9/10 of your teeth. Your views are carbon copies of the rubbish that you read, and you swallow every morsel Rupert Murdoch seeks to feed. You go to bed at 10 because you have nothing else to do, and every time I eat vegetables it makes me think of you. You're a cabbage in a pickle, and your brain has sprung a leak. So let us keep our distance, because I vomit when you speak. I'll always do a runner, so I'm going where you've been, 'cause to see you chills my marrow and turns my tomatoes green. You're an 18-carat cretin with a dandelion wine, so stick to your herbaceous border and I'll stick to mine. And although this verse is corn, it's amazing, but it's true that every time I eat vegetables, it makes me think of you. Cheers. Right, so the next one is a really old one. This is the first poem that John Peel ever played on his show. And I wrote this in 1980 and 1981 when I went to see my mum. I went back home to visit my mother. And there was my mother's sister, my Auntie Frida, was there with her husband. And they always read the Daily Express, which is a horrible right-wing, really brain-dead newspaper, nearly as bad as The Sun. And on the front of this newspaper, there was two stories. One was a great big paranoid rant about the threat from the Russians, and on the other half, they were moaning about social security scroungers. And I wrote this, and it's called Russians in the DHSS, which is the Department of Health and Social Security, which is where you used to get your dole money. It's now called the DSS. And you don't get dole anymore. In England you get a workfare basically. You get job seekers allowance, which means you get basically exploited and have to work for nothing to get just about enough to live on. I guess it's probably not much different over here now. Anyway, it first was a rumour dismissed as a lie, but then came the evidence none could deny. A double-page spread in the Sunday Express. The Russians are running the DHSS. The scroungers and misfits have done it at last. The die of destruction is finally cast. The glue-sniffing Trotskyists, final excess. The Russians are running the DHSS. It must be the truth, because it's there in the news. A plot by the Kremlin, financed by the Jews and set up by Scargill, has met with success. The Russians are running the DHSS, so go down to your job centre. I bet you'll see Albanian students get handouts for free and drug-crazed punk rockers cavort and caress in the interview booths in the DHSS. We'll catch that rat Scargill with our red rat catcher. We'll send him to dinner with Margaret Thatcher. We'll make him stay there until he'll confess that he put the rents in the DHSS. Then we'll hang him and flog him and hang him again. And hang him and flog him and more of the same. We'll gas all the dole queues and clear up the mess. Get rid of the rents and the DHSS. And many, many years later, about nearly 30 years later, I wrote the follow-up poem. Because of course the right-wing tabloids are still doing their master's bidding, still dividing and ruling people by filling working class people's minds full of crap about what the people they're supposed to be frightened of are asylum seekers, and they're supposed to be worried about people taking their jobs or whatever, instead of worrying about getting angry about the bankers who are destroying everybody's lives. So this is the follow-up to that poem, and it's dedicated to anyone here who likes Doctor Who. They claim their planet's dying, that soon it's going to blow, and so they're coming here. They say they've nowhere else to go with their strange computer voices and their one eye on a pole. They're moving in next door, and then they're signing on the dole. Asylum-seeking Daleks are landing here at noon. Why can't we simply send them back or stick them on the moon? It says here in the Daily Mail they're coming here to stay. The loony lefties let them in. The middle class will pay. They claim that they're not terrorists. That doesn't wash with me. The last time I saw one, I hid weeks behind the settee. Good Lord, they're pink with purple bumps. There's photos of them here, not just extraterrestrial. The bloody things are queer. Yes, homosexual Daleks. And they're sponging off the state with huge Arts Council grants to teach delinquents how to skate. It's all here in the paper. I better tell the wife, for soon they will exterminate our British way of life. This satire on crass ignorance and tabloid-fostered fear is at an end. Now let me give one message, loud and clear. Golf course, shop floor or EDL. Smash bigotry and hate. Asylum seekers, welcome here. You racists, emigrate. Cheers.